The night has come, it's cold and losing my control. Your light is gone, and lonely darkness fill my soul. I wish that you could save me from my isolation. It's way too complicated. Let's stop this conversation. Stop this conversation. We got no relation.
Good evening, and if you're just tuning in, you are watching or listening live to the Angel Rock on UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin, and yes, we are live. Hopefully my voice holds out. A little bit about myself. I'm a Canadian psychic medium, crystal Reiki energy healer, Akashic Records practitioner, spiritual teacher, and mentor, as well as registered nurse. I'm well versed in near-death experiences, having studied them professionally and personally for over 40 years, and having had one as a toddler myself. Also an animal communicator, and I am well versed in the paranormal. I always say, didn't go looking for it, it found us. You can see some of our story that we've shared on the Travel Channel's Paranormal Survivor. It's season 4, episode 9, called Demonic Hauntings. It's on YouTube. It's all over the place. I'd like to give a huge shout out to Carnation. They are responsible for sponsoring all of our shows here on Monday. So here on UPRN, we call it Carnation Mondays. And Carnation is a global brand. And this network does actually broadcast to every country in the world. So if you're out doing some shopping and you require maybe something new that Carnation carries, please consider supporting them, because they support us to bring all the wonderful shows here that are on Mondays. And we deeply appreciate Carnation. I always say, if you can't see us, you can't join the conversation. We've got a bunch of people just piling in. You're going to hear us say hi to the conversation or to the people in the audience. This show is very audience participative. So how you can do that is, I'm going to rattle off very quickly. You can join us under my name, Lorilei Potvin, or the Angel Rock, on Facebook on my profile, on LinkedIn, same name, my YouTube, which is the Angel Rock with Lorilei Potvin. We are also on Instagram under the Angel Rock, and then under the network's name, UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. We're on our Facebook page, our main YouTube channel by the same name, Twitch with the same name, and if you guys want to watch us on TV, you can. The network does have its own TV channel. It's on Roku. So you go to the channel store. You're going to go to the search bar and type in UFO space P as in paranormal. There's a drop-down list. We're about the third or fourth one down. You're looking for UFO space paranormal and United Public Radio. So you can watch us there. And we are streaming on Roku tonight as well. So join us there. I'm just doing my little check-off list just in case I'm forgetting anything. I don't think I am. Just a few other quick things. First of all, thank you all for piling in here. I know we've had a lot of replays, and I apologize about that. So I thank you for tuning in live. We will be back live every Monday with you here with the Angel Rock from now on. So sorry with being sick and a bunch of other things going on. So thank you for your understanding. Like I said, this network does broadcast to every country in the world, but 80% of our audience is audio only. So like I say, please join us in the conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and we've got a wonderful, wonderful chat room here. Tonight, we're not on TikTok. TikTok is not playing nice with us, so we are on Instagram instead. But hopefully next Monday, we'll be back on TikTok. Now, this is a returning guest of ours. So I got to grab the right phone here. I got a bunch of phones going. Sorry, guys, I'm a little out of practice here, so give me a sec. No, we don't want to undo it. So give me a second here. I did have it ready. There we go. Just let me put my glasses on. So tonight, sitting to my right, if you are watching, is Brad Burkholder. He's a 71-year-old poet, author, and retired English professor. Began seeing a trance channel in 1996 because of a problematic relationship. The channeled spirit, Ramoth, and please forgive me if I pronounce that wrong, but I think that's how I remember how to say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Am I right, Ramoth? Okay.
You're right.
Okay, explained that he had been in painful relationships with this woman in at least two past lives, where she had been Fanny Brawne and Maud Gonne, and he had been her poet suitors. The spirit brought their together the channel and three other clients and Brad. They all had prominent past lives that had intersected many times in history: the American Civil War, William Wallace's insurrection, the Norman invasion, Roland's battle with the Moors, Camelot, the time of Jesus, and the Trojan War. Together with Brad, they learned that they were one of 12 such groups, apparently preparing the way for a new age. They were tasked with combating the gray aliens in April 2000, with visiting southern England together later that year, and combating Satanists also that year. Afterward, they ceased to function as a group, but still remain friends. Brad delayed writing this book until after his retirement for fear of losing his career. And I want to make sure I put the proper name out. It's called Where the Spirit Led. So, welcome back, Brad. I'm glad to have you back here.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Now, hopefully, my voice holds out for us. Let's just say hi to everybody quickly first. So we've got a bunch of people finally piling in. They're probably all wondering, is it a replay? Is it live? No, we are live. We've got Julie Jean Bassett here saying hi to you, Brad, and myself, and everyone here. Julie, you guys, is one of my mentors as an animal communicator. She's incredible. She's worked with my animals and worked with many other people. If you've got a pet out there and they are doing things that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get through to them, Julie is your person. She is incredible. She's also a pet medium. She's a healer. She's also a shamanic practitioner and has powerful healing abilities. I have been the recipient of these in the past, as well as have had a session with her that was life-changing. So please check her out. Animal things are at juliejeanbassett.com, and her shamanic practitioner things are at whitetailshamanichealing.com. Julie, I know you've got I know, a beginner animal communication course, but if you've got anything else new coming up, please feel free to share it here. And then we got our friend Mish. I always say she's joining us from the future. She's in Australia, and it's morning over there Tuesday. So thank you. She's saying hi to you and I. Let's see. We've got Michelle Wilfong. I'm going to give Michelle Wilfong a shout out. When we are on TikTok, she's my moderator over on the Angel Rock, and she's incredible. She does such a great job. She also lives in a very haunted apartment, which she documents on her TikTok channel called My Haunted Apartment. So please check her out. We've got Carrie Fast here saying hello. Let's see. We're still going good. I think most people think that this is probably a replay, Brad. So they'll file in here. So, so do you want to tell people, just as a refresher for anybody maybe that didn't hear you the last time you were on here, or a little bit more about your book? And I met you through Gavin Davies, and a little bit about that, if you wouldn't mind, and yourself.
Yeah, sure. Well, here's my book, Where the Spirit Led. It's published by Sixth Books, which was in England, has since been taken over by Simon & Schuster. This book is available online everywhere. I saw it on a Barnes & Noble site today. It's a lot of people get it through Amazon, so it's out there. Just look up my name and the title of the book, Where the Spirit Led, and you can purchase a print copy or a Kindle copy. I guess my story, actually, as you said, it begins in the mid-90s when a colleague of mine knew that I was going through a tough time, and she recommended that I see a trance channel who was giving private readings and also was having public meetings every 2 weeks. So I went and eventually married that trance channel. Her name is Yvonne, and we're no longer together, but we are great friends. And I would definitely recommend her as probably the best person I've ever known. The spirit that she channels is a very advanced guide named Ramoth, who has had lives on Earth, is currently not incarnating. He's very light oriented. He comes across in a kind of I hesitate to use the word a Christian tradition, but he talks about Jesus. And when I say I hesitate to use the term Christian, it's because of the Jesus that he talks about, I think, is a little more authentic than the one I learned about when I was growing up in church. And more human in many ways, and yet, completely divine in other ways. So Ramoth has really changed my direction from the first session that I had with him. And I'm still his student 30 years later, or 29 years later. He did for me something that counselors couldn't do. He got me past a really serious sort of emotional hang-up with the woman that I thought I was deeply in love with. And eventually we parted ways, not exactly amicably, but for good. And later on, Yvonne and I started seeing each other as, potential partner material, and had a wonderful marriage for over 20 years.
Right.
But the studies that I made under Ramoth have been amazing, and the things that I know now that I didn't know then have absolutely changed my life. It's been a godsend, really.
Well, thank you for that bit of an update. I think I seen Z-Sun Dragon here. I call him by his muggle name, Kevin. We've seen Vet Girl 84. So welcome. If I've missed you, feel free to just say hi again at the bottom here. Okay. So the book, I'm guessing you shared some of the interactions and stories that you had gone through, because you've had a very interesting life. And I would say we're kind of, Heidi Gall. Hi, Heidi Gall. I see you there. She's saying much love and hello to both of us from Boulder, Colorado. I also want to give Heidi a shout out. She goes around, she has a template she puts out. She promotes a heck out of UPRN. I don't know how she does it, but she does. And we all deeply appreciate that. So thank you. She says she's driving and listening. So, there were a lot of topics we didn't get to the last time you were on.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing I want to ask you about that's really, because I asked you before we met up together, or like before we connected, you were on my mind yesterday and I was going to message you. And then, excuse me, I was still recovering. Plus I tried to take the weekends off from the internet, but I saw your message about 3 a.m. this morning and I went, oh, great, minds think alike. So when I wrote you back, I said, what are some of the things you'd like to touch on? And I'm glad, because you gave me a great list. But this is something that we haven't talked a lot on this show, but I'm utterly fascinated by. And I'm going to use your wording here. You said there's a chapter in your book on the human soul that no interview has asked you about. So I'm going to ask you. Good. And what it is, hang on, I got to get my glasses back on. I'm blind here. And what it is souls traveling out of the body, swapping aspects of souls with other people, and walk-ins, and then even getting into why we reincarnate. I'd love to talk to you about that, if that's okay.
Sure.
I think my computer unplugged on me here. Go ahead. So, okay, so let's talk about that then at first. Let's talk about souls traveling out of the body.
Mm-hmm.
You want to start there, or where do you want to start?
Okay. Well, the soul, actually is a little aspect of the Creator. We all have a divine spark within us, and that is the soul.
Say that. I was just going to say that. I'm sorry, I'm jumping in. I was just going to say, it's when you were saying a little piece of the Creator, and I heard spark. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So, the truth is, we all possess God within us, and we can argue over our concept of God. But my concept is that God is the universe, but He's also the creator of the universe. I use the word he, but he's, God is not a gender. It's very difficult to imagine what God might be. Huge, but tiny at the same time. In the universe, outside the universe at the same time. The universe itself, the creator of the universe. So it is really difficult to wrap your mind around what God is. But we all have an aspect of God within us, unless we're walking around without a soul, which could happen, but I'm sure it's not the case with anyone who would be listening to this. So the soul is not stuck inside the body. The soul is like the driver of a car. Okay. The body is the car. All right. And so then that brings up the question of, does the soul enter the body at the moment of, does the soul enter the body at the moment of inception or conception would be the accurate word there. And according to Ramoth, the answer is no. And
I'm so glad you said that, because I was just dying to hear that. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Because actually, where the soul resides in between lives is so free. It's so light. It's so, you can move freely through space or whatever access space in that realm. You're weightless, or relatively so. We're not tied down the way we are when we're inside our bodies. And we typically leave our bodies at times anyway, during sleep and things like that. So if you were stuck in a womb, in a developing fetus for 9 months, they wouldn't be able to get us to come to Earth. Well, that would be like being stuck in solitary confinement for 9 months. We just wouldn't do it.
There's nothing to be learned. Like you're we're having experiences. That's why we agree to come to Earth. And so I'm, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm a nurse, and I worked in the maternal newborn nursery, but I also worked in the NICU. And then having my own conversations with spirit, that I truly believe, and I think this is also why newborns, one of the reasons why they sleep so much, never mind that they're growing and their job is to eat and, get stronger and what have you. I think that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I know that you're in connection with Ramoth, is that little soul is like, now that it's incarnated, it's, and even when it was in the womb, it's like you said, not trapped, like it's all over the place, and it's learning and preparing and picking up things. Because that also brought up a really important question, and I know it's going to be a hot button topic, so be careful how we navigate it, because it's been a question for a long time with people about when a woman is pregnant and then maybe chooses not to continue with that pregnancy. And then it's always been, well, when does life begin with a fetus? Just because the soul may not be sitting there for 9 months doesn't mean it's not in connection, right? Not in connection. So I'd love to hear your thoughts, or what Ramoth also has.
Ramoth talked about that once at a group meeting, and he said this. He said, "Logic would tell you that abortion is murder." He says it is not.
That's gonna be a hot button subject.
Yeah. But here's what he says: if a soul is meant to be with you, that soul will come to you eventually in life. If now is not the right time for that soul to enter because of financial problems or health concerns, or you're too young, or something, then to terminate a pregnancy is not the same as terminating, a person who is living and breathing and walking around. Because the truth is, your soul is already in communication with that soul that's preparing to enter the world. And in most cases, there's a father around whose soul is also involved and who and so three or more souls are involved in the decision not to continue a pregnancy. But all that is a delay. It is not. It does not have intense eternal ramifications for any of the souls involved. It's a temporary delay. That soul might come to you in a different way, not through a child.
Can I share something though too?
Sure.
Okay, so I've always been fascinated not only with near-death experiences, but children that remember their previous lives or memory, say during birth. There could be many things. And there's one story in particular, it's quite a few years ago. And this woman reported it. And they had a son that was about 3 or 4 years old. And this woman and her partner, they had desperately wanted children, and my heart goes out to people that go through that. I had infertility issues. I used to run the local, I set it up and used to run local infertility support group, and my heart really goes out to people that go through infertility. Anyways, her story is they finally conceived, because she'd had so many miscarriages. They couldn't figure out what had happened with the miscarriages, but finally this little boy was born and was the absolute delight of their lives. Anyways, when he was about 3.5 or 4, and she shared this, I think it was on My Psychic Kids or something, he said, "Mommy, I'm so glad I wasn't afraid this time to be your baby." And she said, "I beg your pardon?" Like, what? So this little guy it took a little while to get it out of him. And as he got a bit older, was able to relate to his parents, didn't know about the miscarriages, but that he had chosen to come to Earth, and then he got scared. Because you're going to know what this life is. It wasn't a bad life, but that could be pretty overwhelming, right? Depending on the decisions we've made for why we're coming or what have you. But I think he even correctly was able to tell her how many times he had been afraid. And there was a lot more to this story. It was a whole episode. That was so profound to me. This little child who knew nothing about these miscarriages. But I think kind of goes along with what you're sharing here, that soul did come back because it was the right timing. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, because I'd love to continue your last sentence you had said, because even if it doesn't come to you as a baby, that soul will somehow interact with you maybe in a different way. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on all of that.
Yeah, well, it's just that. I mean, you said it very well. I don't know what more to say about it. But one of the advantages that I've had over the other people that I know who are not students of Ramoth is things just like this. The question of is abortion equal to murder? That's a question that I pondered long and hard, in life, until I got the answer from Ramoth, and his answer was so it was so logical. And it was, it seemed like a heartfelt sort of answer.
Do you know what my answer has been as a nurse too? When I graduated, the floor I worked on did everything on it that you could think of: cardiac step down, chemotherapy, radiation. We also had late term abortions on this floor. Mm-hmm. And what my thoughts are, Mish, I see your words here, and that's kind of how I felt. And I'm going to share them up here. Now, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong, but Mish says, and honestly, until you're in that moment, you honestly don't know how you would feel at the end. That's exactly how I dealt with it. Is not my job to judge, not my job to put my words in about how I feel. We're certainly entitled to express to ourselves or however we feel. But until we've, each and every one of us, God forbid, had ever been in that situation, you can't judge anybody, right? Like you kind of touched on some points, like maybe financially they're not able, or there could be many, many different reasons, right? It's such a hot button topic. And I never try to tell people what to think, but where I'm going with this is, if we could just have that empathy and love for people without looking at what's going on from the outside in, because we don't walk a mile in their shoes. We don't know what these people
Exactly.
have been through. And I think we need that love and support, not judgment. That would be one of the most difficult decisions that, like, and I think that goes with being an empath. We really, 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 not that we're exactly feel what someone's going through, but we feel it. And again, I could never judge any of these, and many of them were young girls. Like, I just couldn't judge them because I'd never been in that situation,
Hmm.
and I it wasn't my place to judge. I don't know. Hmm.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. We all deserve to be allowed to walk our paths.
yes,
And
yes.
we want to be allowed to walk our paths, and we need to allow other people to walk their paths, as long as as long as it's practical. I mean, if someone wants to be a serial killer, then obviously they're on the wrong path and they need to be stopped. But one of the most heartbreaking essays I ever received. I taught college English for over 30 years.
Hmm.
And I had a student, just a wonderful young woman, wrote about ending a pregnancy. And I remember she ended a paragraph with these two sentences: "The operation was a success. I never recovered." And so
Oh,
she might be beating herself up even now. That was over, over 20 years ago that I taught her. Uh, I hope she's not still beating herself up over that, because I didn't know at the time, what to say to her. I probably, would have had her come into my office, and I would have talked to her about it and told her about my experience with Ramoth and what he said. Um, but by the time I learned, she was gone. It was too late. Uh, but yeah, I think there are people who carry a burden of guilt that is not real, and I I I hope that in coming years people will understand, what is really bad and what really isn't.
I think the hardest judge that we'll ever face is ourselves.
Oh yeah, 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 for sure.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. That breaks my heart. That brought tears to my eyes. I'm sorry it
Yeah,
did, because
yeah,
yet
it was very touching to read. I just
I
had to
know
stop and.
women. Yeah, I know women who have had to make that decision. And
Uh-huh.
20, 30 years later, then you'll never forgive yourself. Ever, ever, ever.
That's true, but you know, 20 or 30 years later, they might have a 15-year-old child who is that very same soul, who
Hmm.
came back to them at a time when they could be better parents.
Yeah, yeah.
Put
Or like
yourself
that
in the
little one.
position. Put
Yeah.
yourself in the position of that child's soul. Would you
Or
want to
like
come
you
in at a bad
said,
time in your parents' lives, or at a better time when your life could be better?
or like you said, you started to say, and then they shared that story of the little one who had said, I was so glad I was brave enough, mommy, to stay in your tummy this time, is the
Yeah.
words the little one had
Uh-huh.
used. But
Yeah.
you started to say, or that soul may come to you in a different way. If you can hold that thought for one sec, because I did just wanted to add these two comments. Cap Energy Sun Dragon says, yep, you can only relate on your own experiences. I don't judge anybody either. True. Like, don't get me wrong, as humans, we do judge. And I always say it's not my job to judge, but we do. But I try very
Yeah.
hard not to, because I don't know your story. I don't know what happened to you or why you've chosen to make the decisions you've chosen. Like Carrie also adds, we judge ourselves. That is torment enough than to have someone else casting stones at us while they have their own decisions to face. And I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. The internet is a wonderful thing, but it's one of the most toxic, dangerous things as well. When people all jump on the bandwagon, and again, not thinking, you don't know the story. You've only got a little piece that's out there, And, the things that people say, like I remember there was another story, this is quite a few years ago. And I think what it was is somebody had left their beloved pet in a vehicle and they didn't do it on purpose. And the pet expired and it went viral, the story. And this person was judged mercilessly.
Mhm.
And people were saying, why don't you KIL yourself and take yourself off this planet? Well, this person did. And then the story came out. I forget what the reason why, not that it was a good reason, but there was a whole thing about why and how this had played out. And it could have happened to anybody. And
Mhm.
then people were all commenting on the viral story. Well, if I'd known that, well, geez, I didn't know that. Well, you're not always going to find
Yeah.
out the reason, right? Just go and judge others and then all pile on like that. And I'm hoping we can remember that. The other thing I always like to say, there's a meme out there and it says think. And T stands for when posting or commenting on, the internet. T is it thoughtful? H is it helpful? I, is it informative? N is it nice and is it needed? And K is it kind?
Mm.
And if you can't be that way, sometimes it's okay to just, swipe right on by. We don't need to jump into everybody's pages or judge, right?
Right. Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think the old adage, if you can't say something nice, just don't say
Yes.
anything.
Don't say it.
There's a lot of wisdom in that. Uh-huh.
Mhm. Now, going back to the souls, really wanted to ask about swapping aspects of souls with other people. I'd love to talk to you about walk-in. So, what do you mean when we say swapping aspects of souls with other people? I think I know, but I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
We carry aspects of most of the people we interact with,
True.
at least in a more intimate sense. In other words, we may not have aspects of strangers or people that we meet once in life, but those people who are our friends, those people who are our romantic partners, our children, our parents, cousins, brothers, sisters, uh, we all trade aspects of ourselves. Now, that allows for karmic lessons to be shared among people. It's actually, it streamlines our journey back to the Creator. And it also, we enrich one another's soul in doing this. For instance, I know a number of people in the past of whom I am a full reincarnation, but I also know of a number of people that I'm not a full reincarnation of. I have aspects of them, and so do you, and so do everyone. They have their own soul, but they can lend out part of it. It's as if your soul is water in a bucket, and you ladle out some into someone else's bucket. They ladle out some into your own bucket. I had an experience in 1999
Okay.
in which I wrote a play. It's called Shakespeare's Latest Play.
Okay.
It's about William Shakespeare as he writes the play Richard II. And the protagonist of the play is William Shakespeare, a young William Shakespeare. That came to me as I was leaving the theater after seeing the movie Shakespeare in Love.
Okay.
And suddenly I was told that I had to go home and pick up the pen. Well, I went home, I picked up the pen, and I started writing in Elizabethan language.
Oh, wow.
So when I finished this play, I had 1,900 lines of iambic pentameter in the sort of English that was spoken in Shakespeare's time, with thee and thou and
Yeah.
knowest and knoweth and all of that. I was channeling that play, and I was channeling it from William Shakespeare. What Ramoth told me is that, at least for the duration, of that play, I took on aspects of William Shakespeare. Whether that's permanent or not, I don't really know. But I know that those aspects were very active in me at that time. I actually got glimpses of his life. I learned certain facts about him that are essentially unknown except to me, and of course I went to Ramoth with all of them, and I said, is this correct? And he said, yes, you got it. So during that time, I had aspects of William Shakespeare. Now, years before that, I spent 6 weeks writing a poem in which the speaker was the outlaw Frank James, the brother of Jesse James. I learned that this was long before I knew Ramoth, but at some point during my studies with him, I asked him about that poem, and he said, during the time you were writing the poem, you drew Frank James to you, and you took on some aspects of him that allowed you to know what to write as you wrote the poem. Then after that, he took the aspects back. I didn't need them anymore.
So do you think though, I'm going in a million different directions here, because, especially with looking at near-death experiences, for example, and anybody, if you've studied people, and there's countless stories out there now, that so many people have said, I really didn't understand that we are all connected from the tiniest grain of sand to a universe, to everything within it, until I had the experience, the near-death experience. So with that being said, when you're saying we can tap into, if you will, or borrow, however you want, from someone's soul, is it really that, or are we just, like you say, like, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to word this properly, but then there's energy, like attracts like energy, right?
Yeah,
You were in that space with Frank James for whatever reason, probably because maybe that was part of what you were supposed to do when you came here, that you were then able to, like attracts like energy. So almost you're tapping into that soul, if you will, that soul energy. And in a way, any of us could do that if we so understood it and understood how to do it, if we really are all connected. Or do you think it really is drawing Frank to you, and then you, without like, you didn't go to Frank and say, hey Frank, can I tap into your soul and borrow your soul energy, but we were able to tap into it because you're on the same wavelength, if you will? Does that make sense to you at all?
It does make sense.
Okay.
But I think I think what we have here is a matter of semantics. I don't know exactly how it works, because I don't know what a soul looks like, or if I have no idea about that. I just imagine it as being liquid, and that we can trade a few drops among ourselves. But I have heard Ramoth say this: eventually, all souls will know one another.
Yeah.
Which suggests that we're all one thing. I mean, we all came from our maker, and we're all struggling. It might take us 10 million years, but we are struggling to get back to our maker. And when we all reunite there, and besides that, we're all connected anyway. But the soul is not stuck permanently in the body.
Oh, gosh, no. That you are not your body, or your like your soul. How does it go? Like, if you say your soul is not stuck inside your body, right? You are not your body. It's your soul. Is kind of the way I like to look at it spiritually, is I chose this test model for this life for whatever reason, and I'm going to be driving this. It's a terrible name. Sorry, I've been watching reruns of Supernatural. This meat suit around for this lifetime. But my soul, it's like, yeah, that when I'm no longer ceased to exist here, okay, that rental's over. I'm choose to go wherever. I'm going to have a different model, but the soul is always, it's eternal. It's everlasting, right?
Yeah. It's the body that's temporary. And it's the body that's weighing us down. We could fly if we didn't have these bodies holding us down, which leads to another thing, and that's the concept of walk-ins. You might not die with the same soul you were born with.
Can you hold that thought for 1 second? I'll do, because I know
Sure.
what's going to happen. People are going to remind me to do the station ID. And I have been dying to talk about walk-ins. I love to talk about walk-ins, and I love to hear people's thoughts on them, because I'll hear things that resonate, and then I'm dying to hear it. I hope you guys are too, listening. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening live to the Angel Rock on UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. I'm your host, Lorilei Potvin, and my amazing guest this evening, he's a returning guest, Brad Burkholder. We're talking about souls tonight. We're talking about walk-ins right as soon as we finish the station ID. Our website is getting a revamp, guys. It's uprntalkradio.com. It's going to look wonderful when it's finished. Not that it didn't before, but it'll be updated. I hear that we're getting a chat room. So for those of you who I mentioned, if you are listening and you want to join in the conversation, you kind of need to see us for us to see your comments. So you can join us on YouTube or Facebook. We're also on Twitch and Instagram under the Angel Rock or UFO Paranormal and United Public Radio Network. And I hear a merch store might be coming too. And just remember, guys, not everything on the network. I think we're going to be up to, I think Michelle DeRoche, who's our station manager, I'll give her a quick plug. She has Beyond the Outer Realm on Tuesdays from 2 to 3:30. And she has the Outer Realm Wednesdays and Thursday nights, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. I think where was I going with that? Oh yeah, she told me we've got a whole bunch of new hosts coming up. So I think we're going to be up to 40, maybe 44, 45 plus live hosts with new shows. We've always got new stuff coming. It's not all UFO and paranormal. There really is something for everyone, because we do several shows daily, live 7 days a week. And when we're not live, the archive server kicks into the last 25 plus years this network's been around. It's actually longer than 25 plus. So we are live 24 hours a day. And usually on YouTube, you can find us streaming. And anywhere where talk radio and podcasts are carried, our networks and the shows, or not our networks, sorry, the shows and previous episodes are there also. So please check it all out. We have a question for you. I'm going to star, but so you held the thought. Thanks, Britt, because I've been dying to talk about walk-ins. So please continue with walk-ins. Mm-hmm.
Well, I had a very good friend who underwent a personality change. Mm-hmm. Walk-ins are not always quite so visible, but this was a person who he was disappointed in life, I think, and he was ready to check out. He stepped out, someone else stepped in. This exchange usually occurs during a traumatic event like an illness. And I believe it occurred when he was suffering an illness, not a life-threatening illness or anything, but he just wasn't well for a week or so. And during that time, apparently that's when the exchange occurred. Now, it probably occurred while he was asleep. He went out of body, and by prior arrangement, because, our conscious mind is not aware of what our soul is up to all the time. These two souls, probably with the help of their guides and angels and so on, had agreed to exchange the body. So the one soul walked out, the new soul walked in. Now, the memories, the way the brain worked and so on, all of that remained intact. But there was a new driver in the car, and his life changed. He found a new purpose in life. He had a very successful life for the rest of his years, and that, I think, is probably pretty typical of walk-ins. Most people don't experience it during a lifetime, but many people do. For instance, Abraham Lincoln was a walk-in.
Really? That's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. He was. The Abraham Lincoln that led the country through the Civil War was actually Thomas Jefferson, come back in a different body. Now, Abraham Lincoln was born long before Jefferson died, but during a period of illness, or maybe a period of deep depression, because Lincoln was prone to that, he agreed to step away. Jefferson came in and used his insight as a leader to steer Lincoln's body through the rest of his life. Similarly,
Mm-hmm.
the Franklin Roosevelt who became president and led us through World War II was actually George Washington. But there was a time around 1920 or so when Roosevelt became very ill, and he was crippled from then on. During that time, he stepped out. Washington stepped in. And so these things are not they're not uncommon, but they're not they don't happen in everyone's life.
See, now what I've always heard with walk-ins is that they're rare. And Mish, you put a good quote. We got a bunch of questions and comments. I've starred them, but Mish, okay, so you put up walk-ins or switch timelines, which is a fantastic question. But with a walk-in, the way I've heard it, I agree with you, Brad. It can happen where somebody no longer wants to be here, is ready to unalive themselves, possibly, or a near-death experience. I've heard of it very rarely. Or either way, the soul has decided that, no, I'm done. But the body is still in great shape. Also, for the fact is that maybe there's a lot of, agreements and contracts with other souls. If this person walks away, it's going to affect a lot of different lives, different soul journeys, different timelines. So another soul has agreed that, yes, I will come in and take over the driver's seat. Now, most people I've talked to or run into, and I don't know all the answers, guys, is they don't remember the memories. That's usually how someone I've met a few people that believe they're walk-ins, is they, like, up to a certain point, like say as a child, maybe they were really ill, they were dying or something. They wake up, they come out of the fever, but they don't remember anything before the illness. They don't remember childhood memories. They don't remember anything, but they remember everything else, like going forward, right? But what happened to all those memories from childhood? Like, they see pictures and they're like, I don't identify with that. I have no idea what that is. So it's very interesting, because with Mish's question, when you say walk-ins or switch timelines, which is a whole different subject, I believe, but switching a timeline, you would still have the memories, you would still have everything. And I'm fascinated about your description with the walk-ins and about various presidents, because, yeah, then you'd have the knowledge, right, from previous memories of, say, Abraham Lincoln. Did you say it was Thomas Jefferson that he had a walk-in with? Like, so again, I don't think there's any hard and fast rules when it comes to the afterlife for souls, right? Like, just because people told me they don't remember, that's not a hard and fast rule. People could tap in. Love to hear your thoughts on that.
Human beings created rules.
Yes.
God created an infinite universe where anything can happen.
Yes.
Now, I don't know. I don't know anything about alternate timelines and things like that, so I can't talk about that. But I do know that a soul could leave a body and go into another body, and of course, time is that's kind of almost a human construct anyway. It has in eternity, all things are happening at once. But in our lives, things move sequentially. And don't ask me to explain that, because I can't even conceive it. I just know what Ramoth has told me, and I believe he's I have ample reason to believe everything he tells me, because he's been right so consistently for 30 years.
I agree with you. When like I think I mentioned to you, and I've mentioned on the air before, and two of them, they were on recently, Leanne and Debbie. We get together, we connect with certain individuals on the other side, and I don't discuss it openly, but privately with a few people, I might mention who we connect with, and they go, well, how do you know it's them? I don't know for sure that it's them, but they've never steered us wrong. They've never ever, they've told us stuff that we can verify, we end up finding. They've never ever, like, you just know, like, they are who they are, or it's a good being that you're connecting with, because like Ramoth, same thing, right? You believe them because it's been proven to you that what they've shared with you either verify or it's come true, or and you build that trust, you build that relationship, right?
Yeah. From the very first time I talked with Ramoth, he was telling me things about my past that only I knew. And so he gained a good bit of credibility there. And of course, I tested him when I said, "Are you of God? Are you of light?" And he said, "Yeah."
Is this when Yvonne was channeling him? Because I'm thinking people hearing this are going to go, well, of course Ramoth would know what you knew because you were connecting with him. But would this have been, say, when Yvonne was it's Yvonne, right? She was channeling him in the beginning before you really connected? Or so?
Yeah. See, I'm not really a channel. I believe that some of my writing is channeled, and there have been times when Ramoth has given me information directly when I needed it, and Yvonne wasn't there. But Yvonne still channels for me, and that is the primary way that I connect with Ramoth. But I will tell you a little story. This happened about a year ago. I woke up one morning and I was just feeling so down and despondent. And I just sort of sent out a message to Ramoth. I just said, "Ramoth, I wish that you could put your arm on my shoulder. I would feel better." Well, later that day, I went to a little country diner out on a highway. Went in, I had some lunch. I came out, and there was a man there selling candy Easter eggs that his wife had made. So it was a week or so before Easter. And he asked me if I'd like to buy an Easter egg. And honestly, I carry cards. I don't carry cash very often anymore. And I apologized. I told him, yeah, they look good. I wouldn't mind having one, but I really didn't have any way to buy it, so I'd have to pass on it. And at the time, I was walking with a cane. I've since had a hip replacement, and I'm walking just fine now. But at that time, every step was just torture. He said, "What's going on with your leg?" And I told him. And he got up, and he put his arm across my shoulder, and he said, "Is it all right if I pray for you?" And I said, "Sure." And he had this simple little prayer. It was sweet in its simplicity. It was something like, "Heavenly Father, I'm placing this man in your hands." And I'm thinking, well, I'm always in his hands, but it was a nice gesture. And it wasn't until maybe an hour later that I realized that, oh, wait a minute. No man has put his arm across my shoulder probably for 20 years. And it happened today. And so the next time I got a chance to talk to Ramoth through Yvonne, I said, "So you caused that to happen, didn't you?" He said, "Yeah." So
but you also make the connection too, right? Because that's the beauty of spirit, right? The way you receive that message is fine, but where really I think becomes really solidified is you were then able to make that connection after the fact that was you.
Yeah. But and when I realized that, it was really nice. It was a nice warm feeling. And I was 100% certain that's what had happened, but I did want to verify it and thank Ramoth in person.
We got some questions, Brad, if that's okay.
Shoot.
Okay. So Z-Sun Dragon or Kevin says, "Do you believe when someone leaves a job, for example, that their energy or part of them can stay behind or leave. Also, is that a piece of their soul? And there's a second part to this. When a coworker left a job after, hang on, I think he had a spelling thing here. After I think they left, a white ball followed him, and that night I seen said ball of his essence of energy depart to the moon. Seen many times after that as he visits us at work, but never seen that energy go after him again. I hope I didn't read that last part incorrectly. Let me see.
Wow.
Okay. When a coworker left a job after he left, I seen, he says, a white ball falling. And then the last part is, sorry, but never seen that energy go after him again. So I guess he's asking you, have you ever heard of anything like that or seen that, I guess? He says, do you believe, I'll put the first part of the question up. He says, do you believe when someone leaves a job, for example, that their energy or part of them can stay behind or leave?
Yes. And I think that might explain some encounters that people have with ghosts. Do I understand it?
Interesting.
Do I understand it? No, not really. But I can tell you this. I had a similar experience. My wife and I bought a house, or Yvonne and I bought a house that was, I'll call it historic. It wasn't really it wasn't a century old or anything, but it was built right at the end of World War II. It still had old-fashioned gas furnace that the guy from the gas companies, he used the term historically old to describe our furnace. And there were a lot of things about the house that were dated. The same family had lived in that house until the last surviving member, who was the mother, went into assisted living. And that's when she put the house on the market and we bought it. I was sitting in the house, actually watching television, when something very similar to a puff of cigarette smoke passed between me and the television. Just as a hazy, smoky something. Well, I knew that, I knew it wasn't smoke. So I suspected something spiritual. Yep. When I got a chance to talk with Ramoth, he said, yes, that was the lady coming back visiting the house. Now, she wasn't dead. She was perfectly well 10 miles away in a retirement home. But something of her came to that house. In a similar way, the very day that I started learning about my past lives from Ramoth, and I learned that I was actually the reincarnation of someone I considered kind of a hero from the past. And now I don't mean heroic in other people's sense of heroism, but I've been a poet all my life. This man was a poet, not just a poet, but my favorite poet. And when Ramoth had told me that, my soul understood it on an emotional level. Normally, I would have said, no, that's not possible. But at the time that he said it, I just knew that's true. And I felt it. I began crying. Yvonne came out of her trance, and there I was, just an emotional wreck. And she started apologizing to me. I said, no, don't apologize. It's the best news I ever heard. But I stopped by my parents' house, and I was pretty emotionally worn out. So I stretched out on their couch and fell asleep. My dad had a habit, he was getting on in years, and he had a habit of falling asleep in his recliner, which was in the same room. I woke up and I saw him standing above me looking at me. And he was, it was my dad. I felt I could have reached out and touched him, but he dissolved right in front of me. Right. And then as I looked around the room, I saw his body sleeping in the chair across the room from me. So he was out of body while asleep. And he was looking at me because he didn't know what to think of the story that I had just walked in and told him and my mother. And so I imagine he was concerned about me.
Yeah,
And
but
he was,
that can happen because even as a medium, and it doesn't happen often, but I know other people that work as mediums. Sometimes we will get people that'll come through that are still alive.
Mhm.
And I remember the first time it happened, and then you feel kind of bad, like, how am I picking up on something spiritual from somebody that's still alive? They're not on the other side. And you gotta love, like you got Ramoth. And by the way, you guys, we all have this. You can go into meditation, you can do automatic writing. There's many ways to connect, where you can visit psychics and mediums like myself, like Yvonne, like many people, right? But you can make these connections and get these answers. And what it was that made sense to me, and again, I don't have all the answers, it just resonated and made sense to me, is that their higher self was coming through with a message that was then, like, to be delivered. Now, whether the person that I was delivering it to wanted to receive it, we have free will, right? But it made sense. Or like you said, your dad, or you had shared the previous story as well, right? I think we can do that. We get into, can the soul travel outside the body? Yes, it can. Then the person I keep thinking of that's in the chat, I think she's still here, Julie Jean Bassett. She's done this with me in a session, and holy cow, you guys, it was profound, because there are parts of the work she does with soul retrieval, parts of our soul that
I've had that done. Life changing.
Yes. So what are your thoughts on that with soul retrieval?
Well, just as we can give away aspects of our soul, there are events and people who can take aspects of our soul as well.
Right.
And I in the year or so before I met Yvonne,
right,
I contacted a shaman who was he was half Cherokee, half white. And
right.
not that matters, but he was a shaman in a Native American tradition. That's why I say that. So he journeyed for me. He brought back 3 soul parts. He told me what I needed to do to make them, to reattach them permanently, and I did that. I had friends who also hired him. They didn't do their homework, and they didn't gain anything from the soul retrieval, but I did. And he journeyed for me 2 more times, and then later, a few years later, he did another journey for me. And in all cases, the results were noticeable. People saw a difference in me. I felt different. I had more confidence than I had ever had. So it is real. It is absolutely a very real thing. And I would recommend that anyone who is willing to do the follow-up work, which doesn't take more than a minute a day, but was more than some people were willing to put into it. But if you're willing to do that, you will absolutely achieve results.
So, sorry, I'm just setting up Instagram because it loves to switch off on us on halfway through here, Brad. Just give me a sec. So hopefully this doesn't cut off on me when I'm talking to you. Give me 1 sec, because it loves to stagger on me or stutter when I'm trying to set up the stream. I don't know why Instagram does this, but it loves to do it. Cut it off halfway through. Hang on. Just save this so it doesn't keep doing its thing. There we go. The thing that I had the session for was something very, 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 very traumatic from my childhood. And it was a very profound experience. Now, I can't say I had a change, say, in my personality or anything like that, but it was life-changing. Julie's saying yes. She's giving us all kinds of points here. Hang on. Hi, Derek, White Sky Cloud. I just saw him here, so hang on. Let's see. We've got a Kiara here. Hello, Kiara. Sorry, guys, I'm missing you guys. I had some starred comments. So what Julie's saying, hang on, I'm going to go back, or Carrie is saying, sorry. So Kevin is saying your first thought is generally correct. I believe that, Brad. You said he was checking up on you. That feels correct with what you were sharing earlier. Carrie is sharing soul fractals caught in regions of captivity. Very powerful healing. She says, I do this for myself and others. Interesting. And then Julie says, yes. She says, I love doing the soul retrievals. They are so profound for both my client and me. They are I have to tell you, it was majorly profound to go through something like that and healing. So there's a few things I saved as well, Brad. I hope this is okay. So Mish had shared earlier, because we're still talking about walk-ins. We got deviated a little bit, but Mish says, Lopsang Rampa. I'm not sure who that is, but she said they were a monk and he was a walk-in. He wrote in many books about it. Interesting. Have you heard about him before? Because I certainly hadn't heard that name.
No, I'm not familiar with the name.
I'm not either. So thanks for sharing, Mish. Okay, so Kevin, or I'm going to add this when Mish was asking about when we were talking about boring aspects of souls. She had asked whether it was switching timelines, right? And I said, well, that's a different thing. But then she added this part to clarify that. And I read it when I did Mish, and I went, oh. And so I wanted to save it. She said, maybe walk-ins say switching timeline. Sorry, I'm going to reread that. Maybe walk-ins say change switching timeline things change around you. So I think what she's trying to say is a walk-in changing just the timeline and the things around you. Please clarify for me, Mish, if I'm not reading it correctly. Because to me, switching timelines, I think we do it as human beings all the time. We just don't realize that we do. And you said you don't talk, like that's not your sort of your thing, right? Switching timelines.
I don't pretend to have knowledge about things I don't know about.
And that's a good thing.
I can't answer that question. But I can, I did learn something since I wrote Where the Spirit Led. Ramoth talked to me about different dimensions.
Okay.
Which when he uses the word dimension, I think he's talking about alternate realities. Okay. And he told me that many spiritual people live in more than one dimension at the same time. And that I had started out living in 3 dimensions, 3 different versions of Earth. But then he made a comment that, and this is typical of the way he teaches. He said, there might be 3 of you. You're born on the same day, but you're born in different places, and you can't meet one another because you're not in the same version of Earth. You're in different dimensions. And he said, so you might have a close call and he dies. Mm-hmm. Well, the next time I talked to Ramoth, I had figured out what he was really telling me. When I was 24, I almost had a fatal motorcycle crash when a car pulled out in front of me. This is covered in Where the Spirit Led. That motorcycle changed directions. It made a 90-degree turn. Now, all I could do was lock up the brakes and try to slow down a little bit before I hit the vehicle broadside. But my motorcycle made a turn that I've never seen a vehicle make. It wasn't right. It wasn't within the confines of physics. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, I was absolutely shaken. I got off that bike, sat on the curb, and just thanked God. But another version of me crashed, and he died. Yep. Now there are 2 of me. The other one's in Ireland. And I said, I could go and find him. And Ramoth said, you could go to Ireland. You can meet every person in Ireland, but you won't find him because he's not in the same dimension you're in. But I'm told that he and I, barring another disaster like that, he and I were born on the same day. We'll die on the same day. We'll reunite at the same time, and we'll share our experiences.
Well, if you think about it, right? And then this is getting into reincarnation because I'm so glad you gave me some topics we hadn't talked about because I'd love to ask you more about this. So if you think about it, and I love to talk about these kind of things, multiple dimensions, timelines, time. My best friend, Leanne Clark, she was on with, she's Crystal Architect. You guys, I've mentioned her many times, or Julie knows her quite well too, Julie Jean Bassett, or I like to call her the Crystal Wizardress. And we get into this. Like the first time we connected years ago on a group that we're no longer part of, we talked for like 5 hours. It's like you know when you just meet someone and you know you've had many lifetimes with them before, even if you don't know what those things are, you just feel like you know them, right? And so we start talking about it. And I love to get into this because it feels like, and some of the superhero shows are getting into this, the multiverse, right? Or you got Earth 1 and Earth 2, and then you got all these things. So there is a theory out there. Don't ask me to name them. I don't know who they are, but I've heard it many times. Where exactly, let's take your example about you almost having a near fatal motorcycle accident. There is a version, multiple versions, like Ramoth told you. You'll never meet that version of you. They're on another timeline, another time dimension. But if you think of it as a soul, and this is where we get into the, and then it gets hard to wrap my brain around it, where the past, present, and future are all happening at the same time. Time is just a man-made concept, right? So if you think about it, if past and present, future are all happening at the same time, and you remove time, it kind of could make sense if you think about it, that there is a version, say we'll use of you, many different versions of what could have happened, what might have happened. Maybe there's another version, God forbid, where you got hurt. Maybe there's another version where you had a near-death experience. There's a version where maybe you expired. There's many different versions of what happened. And like you said, you're born on the same day, you pass away on the same day, and when you leave this earth physically and go to wherever your next journey is, whatever someone's belief system is, all those timelines converge. Imagine the knowledge and the experiences your soul would have gained versus if there was only one version of you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. But it's something that I don't dwell on because I can't access the answers. And
okay.
if it's something that's out of my reach, then I want to deal with what's within my reach. And I think, I don't want to spend my time theorizing.
Sure.
When I can be living. So that's why I don't get into that kind of speculative thinking.
And that's okay, because there's so much to know and look at and focus on and learn about, right? Like for me, I'd love to, maybe one day I will, but I've never been really drawn to astrology. I think it's super powerful. I think it's super unique, but that's not kind of where I'm drawn. And that's okay. There are people that do that kind of thing, but that's not my thing. And so I get it. But getting back to the soul conversation, and again, I want to thank you because I like, again, for people just joining us late, Brad has joined us before. It was in October. Brad Burkholder. We're continuing our discussion today. And I asked him, is there anything you want to talk about that maybe we didn't talk about the last time? So we've talked about walk-ins. We've talked about our soul leaving our body while we are alive. But what about, and I love that you put this in here, it says why we reincarnate, whether we are forced to reincarnate and so on. So I would love to hear all about this if you don't mind.
I found some information about Gnosticism, Gnosticism, which was an early version of Christianity that was declared heretical by the church. And incidentally, this bears thinking about. God loves heretics because they at least search for him. Heresy is not a crime against God. It's not a crime against the universe. It is a crime simply against a particular organized religion.
So for heresy and Gnosticism, I know what those are, but for people listening, how would you define those, Brad?
Well, what drew me to Gnosticism was certain theories about how we got here and also that there's a strong connection, I think, to Buddhism in Gnosticism, because it values mindfulness. But then there are other aspects of it that I wasn't sure of. And when I talked to Ramoth, he said, "No, don't go there. If you do, it's not. It wouldn't be wrong of you to." But he said that's not really the way it is. But one thing was that Gnosticism sees reincarnation as a trap that the dark side sets for us. Uh-huh.
Okay, but what is
no,
Gnosticism for people that have never heard what Gnosticism is? Before we even
Gnosticism is in its basis, it's a really good idea, and because the word gnosis, which it comes from, is a Greek word that our words to know and knowledge are derived from. It's the ancient root word of our words to know, and knowledge. But it's direct knowledge that comes straight from the source. In other words, I have a really good source. I have Ramoth, who is an agent of God, and he's telling me the truth about things, and it's as if I've tapped into the source itself. And so therefore, I don't have to have faith in what's going to happen to me the moment after death. I have knowledge of it that I've gained from Ramoth, and even I've had some experiences in dreams when I was out of body, when I've been with Ramoth, when he's shown me things, and it's almost like having a direct knowledge rather than faith. I had a very wise great uncle, a very simple man who lived without a telephone or running water. And he said to me once, he said, it's okay to have faith, but it's a whole lot better to know something than it is to hope it's true. And I am so lucky that in the latter part of my life, I've been able to not to have to worry about faith, because I've been given the knowledge, and I know it to be true because it's been proven over and over to me.
It seems more like a humanistic type of belief system, because humans, right? I'm sorry, but I believe this. They need things proved to them. Not every human, but there's a lot of human beings. They need to have it proved to them. So like you said a few minutes ago, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And you don't leave faith up to faith. I've heard can be a whim, on a whim, right? Like just because my version of faith versus your version of faith versus 10 people, anybody in the audience version of faith is all different. Gnosticism and knowledge, not necessarily a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I'm not going to recommend that people convert to Gnosticism.
Me neither, but
I don't think it's got the answers. It does not have all the answers. What I consider myself is a Christine, just like the name Christine, and that's what the early followers of Christ call themselves. Mm-hmm. People. I remember a few years back, somebody said, "Well, are you a Christian?" And I said, "No, not the way you're talking, but I am definitely a follower of Christ. He's my role model. When I'm faced with a dilemma, I ask myself, what would Jesus do? And the answer is he'd go in the direction where the light is and away from the direction where the darkness is. And
lead yourself.
And that gives you a moral compass, if you just ask yourself that question. Even if you don't believe he was divine, you have to admit that the guy had some good ideas.
And lead with love and forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He embraced his humanism. I mean, there are times when he got angry, and can't say he was wrong when he did, but right.
But did you ever notice who? Did you ever notice whom he got mad at? He didn't get mad at the sinners out in the street. He didn't
I
get
was just
mad
thinking that.
at adulterers. He didn't get mad at prostitutes. He got mad at the priests.
And people that took advantage, or it was about,
He,
money and wealth
uh-huh.
and
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Not a
Now,
bad way.
in coming times, I don't think we'll have the big organizations that we have today. I don't think that we'll have organized religion.
Mhm.
I think spirituality will replace it. And this is something we could talk about for a couple more hours. If you'd like to have me back, I'd be happy to come and talk about it.
I'll have you back because everybody else wants you back. I'll have you back because I think we've had a fascinating discussion, and I know we barely scratched the surface, Brad. Mhm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, in the future, people's lives are going to be what my life has been. They're going to have revelations. They're going to become more psychic. They're going to become much more spiritual. We're in the dying days of an age, and astrologically, I don't know much about astrology, but I know that some very unique things have been happening in the sky. And that a certain configuration of planets has occurred that hasn't occurred for 20 or 30,000 years.
I agree.
So we're in a time of renewal. The chaos that's going on in the world is a part of that. And when it's over, we're going to have a better world. And so our descendants are going to live in a better place than we lived in. And that's about the only reason that I could be convinced to come back. Because I asked Ramoth about that. I asked him about that trap that the Gnostics believe, that reincarnation is a trap, and that if you learn how to avoid it, he said no one is ever forced to reincarnate.
I agree.
If you die and you absolutely don't want to come back, you don't have to come back. But life on Earth is the fast track.
It is.
And that apparently nowhere else in the universe can your soul advance as rapidly as it can here, and that's because we're dealing with the consequences of free will plus greed. And as Ramoth said to me one time, the two things that they on the other side cannot understand is why we think gold is so valuable.
I asked that question, my husband and I. We have these questions. Why gold? Why gold?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on the other side, the spirits are shaking their heads over that one. And also the concept that having more than enough is better than having enough.
But that's the proverbial question. And I've asked this many times. Both my husband and I, we have very intriguing conversations about many of these types of things. When is enough enough? And I've often said, when you see some with so much, when is enough enough? You have more than enough to provide for 8 different lineages down from you to live a very comfortable, happy life. But you're still in pursuit of wealth. You're still in pursuit of money. You're still in pursuit of fame, whatever that may be. And yet, when is enough enough?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, like, and maybe, and I found this the most rewarding of my career. I love being a nurse, is the fact that, looked after some of the wealthiest people on the planet at the end of their life, and some of the poorest of the poor. And I can tell you, not one person ever said, gosh, I wish I made more money. Gosh, I wish I bought more cars. I wish I bought this. I wish I bought that. It was always, always, always the regrets about not doing the things they had always planned on doing in the future. And the big one always I heard was, I wish to God I had told the people I love every day, several times a day, how much I do love them. I appreciate them. I am grateful for them. So it doesn't matter about the money. It doesn't matter about the fame or the wealth, because you can't take it with you, right? We talked about this earlier. Exactly. The soul, when it leaves, is going to take another new vehicle to drive. This vehicle's done, and you're not taking it with you.
I asked Ramoth, what is typical of a person's final life on Earth?
Mm-hmm.
And his answer was absolute poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Because people who, he's talking about people who might starve to death or, something like that. He said, in a life like that, you retire a tremendous amount of karma. And so many people choose that sort of life as their final life because that is their triumph. It's the triumph over material things.
Mm-hmm. But I also believe, and again, I don't have all the answers, and we don't just incarnate here. There's other universes, there's other planets, there's other experiences. And, I always have these profound questions I don't talk about on air, but, so the next lifetime, and again, people say, this is my last lifetime, I'm not coming back, I'm done. It would make sense. And again, I don't know. I've heard people say that you have to live a life with no karma, and that's how you don't reincarnate again. But also, if you're here to grow and evolve your soul with knowledge and experience, I think we have to have an experience being it all, coming back and being the poorest of the poor, being the richest of the rich, being whatever that is, and in between, and a different nationality and a different everything. Again, I don't know all the answer, but that makes sense to me. But Mish, you had said a lot, looks like a lot of people want to come back. And the thing is, and Spirit's shown this to me, again, don't have all the answers. There is a massive lineup of souls wanting to incarnate here exactly because of what you just said, Brad, right? We come in, Earth is one of the most difficult places to have an experience. We come in these heavy, dense, fragile bodies. Most of us come in with spiritual amnesia, but we have the biggest capacity to clear that karma and learn. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, or what Ramoth shared with you.
I don't know anything about lives that I have or have had on other planets. I do know that Ramoth told me that the people in my soul group, I don't know how big a group that is, that we came here from the area of Orion a long time ago. And I do know that I've been having lives on Earth apparently since pretty much the beginning. They go back a long way. I mean, I do know I was regressed once to a life in Atlantis. It's the only life I was ever regressed to in which I was female. All other lives that I know about, I've been male. But I've been regressed to the Trojan War. I've been regressed to
with
Camelot.
the same regressionist.
Different. Sometimes the regression actually happened with Ramoth's help, but there's also there's a researcher named Barbara Lane who wrote a pretty famous book about Civil War reenactors, whom she regressed, and many of them discovered they were their own ancestors, and some of them actually when they went to reenactions, they pretended to be the person that they actually were, and they weren't aware of it. And so I was regressed to a few days before I died in the American Civil War, and I've also been regressed to the lives of various warriors and writers that I've been in past lives.
See, I've had past life regressions with a few people, and again, as I'm listening to you, maybe that's the information you needed to receive in the experience that you were having, because I know, how do I want to put this? Like, the first one I had was to deal with a lot of physical issues I'm having. And I can tell you, like I could see what happened, and it wasn't anybody famous. It wasn't anything, whatever, which was kind of carrying some of that energy forward here into this lifetime, right? Um, then I'm trying to think of some of the other experiences, because I've also had this person, um, when I get together with the two other ladies I've mentioned, and I'll hear it from spirit, which I call collectively just spirit on the other side. I'll say, we need an answer to a question. We go into a hypnosis and be able to access your higher self and the soul side to be able to get more information. So I don't know, like, you know what I mean? Like, we get to this point where it's almost like you start going further and further and further and further into this, because, like, okay, I'm going to leave it there. I hear from spirit. How many lives do you think you've had, or do you know? Like you said, you've only had one female life. You only regress back that far.
Ramoth has told me hundreds or thousands.
Yes, yes, yes.
that I've been everything, from the poorest pauper to a king, and many things in between. But I tend to have been warriors, or else I was poets.
Interesting. Have you ever asked Ramoth why? Just curious, just because that's the curiosity in me, the podcaster in me asking why. And if you don't know why, that's okay.
I will tell you something. I was one of those people who was healed by Jesus.
Hmm?
Now,
Yeah,
I don't think that I don't think that I'm sitting here today having had the privilege of working with Ramoth necessarily because I was healed by Jesus. But I think there was a reason I was healed by Jesus, and it's the same reason that I'm here today. So I believe that I've been basically a spiritual person throughout time. I don't know why. I do know, I've learned about so many murders. I've been stabbed in the back and poisoned and shot in the back, and seldom killed in an honorable way. But I don't know of any life in which I ever killed a person other than in war. I don't know of any life in which I was a murderer. Now there may have been plenty of them, but they're not lives that I've been allowed to tap into.
But maybe there wasn't something for you in it, because as you're talking, I'm thinking of other past life regressions. I'm going to share a comment here. Because now that I think of it, I have had past life readings with other people throughout the years, and in every one of them, and I know it's not possible that I was only ever a female, but I was a female. Some of them, I know I've seen what's happened in those past lives. I can see it. Like, apparently when I was a nun, and apparently this is, I think, back in the 1500s, and I had a fiance, somebody I wanted to marry, but my parents did not agree with them. And back in those days, you didn't have to be caught in any impropriety. You just didn't have a chaperone together. And my parents, I think, were of wealth, and apparently were very embarrassed by what I had done. So I got sent to the monastery. And I mean, there's much more to this. Another lifetime that I kind of know what I look like. Was I one of my ancestors? Maybe. I find that fascinating. I'd love to have, we're almost out of time. So our next show, I'd love to talk more with you about this, is apparently I had long dark hair when my hair was dark, and I was fiercely independent, which I am in this lifetime. And I was kind of way ahead of the times for myself, for where women were. And apparently I was a high-priced escort. No, I've never been an escort in this lifetime, you guys. But the point was, I was a businesswoman. I didn't have a man managing my business. I managed it for myself. I was quite wealthy, right? And I managed that, and so on and so forth. So where I'm going with this is, maybe we're given, our higher self gives us the versions, however we receive it, whether it's through Ramoth or, spirit, or somebody that regresses us through hypnosis. We're given that information because it's the most helpful to where we are in our life at that time when we choose to have that experience. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. because the whole purpose of life is to learn. As Ramoth says, the purpose of life is to grow and learn.
Hey, Gavin. Gavin Lee Davies.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. Hey, Gavin.
Gavin. Yeah.
Good to have you here.
Good to have you here. So I don't know, like that makes sense, right? Because I know for a fact that I couldn't just have been a woman. But the one thing I did have, two very overbearing, controlling parents throughout these lifetimes, I went, yeah, that's still going on to this day. So does it mean I didn't learn the lesson yet, that I'm still continuing to have these experiences? Like you said, you had many past lives that you're aware of, that you were either a warrior or a poet, and you were male, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm sometimes a farmer. And I was fortunate enough that a pony, whom I have karma with, I fell off that pony when I was a child and messed up my arm badly enough that I was rejected for military service. Not that I volunteered, but I was being drafted during the Vietnam War. I was rejected because of problems with the arm.
Okay.
And I don't think I would have, being the person I am, I don't think I would have come through that war well at all if I came through it, still physically alive. I doubt that there'd be the same soul in me now that there was then. I'd be so damaged, or else I would have walked out and somebody else would be riding around in this vehicle.
So do you think maybe your soul, like maybe that was part of one of the agreements when you incarnated into this lifetime, that there was going to be something that would happen physically to prevent you from going to war? Because
Ramoth said that. Yeah, Ramoth said that. And that, interestingly, that pony was the horse that I rode when I was a knight in Camelot.
Oh, I so wanted to go there. So I'm hoping you're going to come back. Like you mentioned, if you could, I would, because I wanted to go there with you. Because I got to tell you, I have many things that connect back to that lifetime. I am positive beyond a shadow of a doubt that I had a past lifetime, at least one back in that time.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. I don't doubt that. There's some reason that you and I are connecting right now. There's a reason that, I suppose that months ago, Gavin promoted the idea of your interviewing me, but you didn't have to choose it.
As soon as I saw it, I went, oh, heck yes. Well, actually, I didn't say heck yes. I said HE double hockey sticks, yes. Gavin knows me well. Gavin, by the way, if you're still there, I've had this darn flu, and I've been, my husband was sick from, him, Dell, since December 20th. I saw your emails. Getting back to you this week, my friend, just so you know. So, oh my gosh, every time I have you on, it goes by so quick. I'm still blown away when you were on the last time in October talking about the ark that you and your friends built. And it was like it was screaming in my head. Ask him about the copper rod and the crystal.
Right.
Ask him about the copper rod. And you go, oh my gosh, yes, there was a copper rod and a crystal.
You know what was so interesting about that is that I had totally forgotten that it had a copper tube in it. But about a week before our interview, I had talked with one of the men that I built the ark with, and he mentioned the copper tube, and I had forgotten about it. But that was central to it. It was like,
and you guys, if you don't know what we're talking about, you can find it on YouTube under my channel or on Facebook. Brad was on Brad Burkholder for the first time in October on the Angel Rock. He did not tell me about this copper rod or anything to do with it. He was talking about this ship type ark he talked more about the people that you briefly mentioned at the beginning of the show. So if you would please go back and check it out. It's a fascinating interview. But as he's talking about this, I intuitively kept hearing, ask him about the copper rod. And I think there was some type of crystal, because I could see the crystal, like a quartz crystal with it. And he did not tell me this ahead of time at all. So it was crazy. So,
Yeah,
Brad,
I failed to mention it in Where the Spirit Led, because at that point I had totally forgotten there was copper in it.
yeah, I
Yeah.
know, and it was spirit. Like I could, and guys, I don't hear voices if you connect intuitively, and I believe we all can. But I kept hearing it, and usually if it's something important, I'll hear it over and over and over and over and over. So I had to ask you. It was fascinating. You know
Yeah,
what,
that was
Brad? We're
great.
out of time. And like I said, you guys, would you like Brad to come back? We didn't even get into Camelot yet. We didn't get in. You've also got there's more interesting stuff with the American Civil War, with reincarnation, creation, from Ramoth's take on Genesis. We got a ton more stuff to talk about. So we got to have him back on, you guys.
The Genesis thing is big. Yeah, I
Save
would
it.
love to come back and
We've
talk
only
about
got
that.
3 minutes left till next
Yeah,
show
we
comes
don't
on.
have time to do it. So you have to have me back.
Yes, yes, I have to have you
I
back.
would love to come back.
And
I
I
would,
love
for
having,
sure.
Miss just said, love to you all. Take it easy, fellow souls. And I'm sure I'm going to hear from people off air too. So we will definitely have you back on. Might not be till summer, but we will have you back on.
Okay.
Brad, how can people, yes, Kevin just said, much love, and yes, have him back,
yeah.
please. So,
Yeah.
where can people buy your books? How, I know I've got your email going across the top, but if you want to tell people all the good stuff.
You can buy the books. I think they're in some bookstores, but the surest way to get hold of it is to order it. Amazon,
Okay.
Barnes and Noble, and probably most of the other booksellers. But it's definitely out there, and I recommend it. I've read it myself, and I kind of like it.
You're a little biased, but that's okay. I know it's an amazing. You guys, you can also reach out to Brad at Where the Spirit Led, and I spelled it wrong before the show began, and I'm usually a good speller, but led is LED at gmail.com, right, Brad?
Right.
So you guys, next week, talk about, you guys know I never have any problem hiding stuff from you guys. We have on, I want to say her name, Tina, we are having on. If you guys remember Azria, she does the alien DNA. She checks your DNA, how you connect with off-world beings. This is her mama. So we're having Tina Beckham coming on next week, and she is going to do a mini soul plan reading for me. So you guys, it's mind-blowing. I know she was on Carrie Lynn Shellhorn's show quite a few months ago on Spirit Switchboard. Carrie Lynn's on Fridays at 6 p.m. Eastern. And this is the first time I was able to have Tina on. I've been waiting this long. So she's coming on next week, you guys. She is mind-blowing. She's fascinating. She's over in the UK. So I hope you'll tune in. We're going to have Brad definitely back on. Thank you for being here, Brad.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Carnation. Thank you for sponsoring Carnation Mondays here. If you can, guys, and it's a global brand, please consider supporting Carnation, because they support all of our shows here on Mondays on UPRN. If you guys ever want to get a hold of me, get a hold of me on facebook.com/The Angel Rock. I am working on a domain name website. I do psychic and mediumship readings. I do Akashic records. I do energy healing. I do teaching and mentoring. You can get a hold of me on any social media platform under Lorilei Potvin or The Angel Rock. If you got show ideas or you got guest ideas, feel free to share those too. People have over the years, and I always forget to mention that. So please do, because I want to do what you guys want to talk about or who you want to see on here, like Brad and many of the incredible authors Gavin has sent me as well, and other things. So let me know if there's people you want me to connect with. So like I said, I'll be back next week with Tina, and I can't wait. 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Stay tuned. I have this written down. I'm a little rusty, you guys. Sorry, it's been a couple weeks. I apologize with having people on here. We're Dolly Saffron and Preston Dennett with the Light Gate coming up right next. All right. So y'all have a good one. Much love. And we'll see you next Monday. Thank you so much, Brad. I really appreciate it. I'll have you on the next time.
Thank you.